Yes.
Already? Okay, so good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for being here tonight. Actually, we are very happy to present FutureEd, co-creating a rights-centric education for a sustainable future. It's a project funded by the European Union, and it's carried out by three associations, three organizations, one based in Luxembourg, Ali, another one in Belgium, Collective Up with Liliana, and a third one with UDEC, which is a big organization too. So we share a common vision of education, which we think should be right-centric and should be aligned with human rights. And we will explain why we think it's a good path to reach a sustainable future. So why is this project? Maybe you can, next slide. Because we observed that rights are seen as abstract and there a deficit in civic education. And people leave school or even adults without really understanding how human rights impact their daily life and how important they are for our society and for our life in general. So that's the first thing we wanted to address to explain how they can be very useful for to have a life in dignity. Next slide. We also realize there are a lot of misconceptions about human rights. Most people tend to think it's a Western construct, and it's not at all. They tried, in fact, after World War II to have a kind of universal moral code, and they realized it doesn't work at all because we have so many different visions of the world, so they could not agree on a kind of universal human code. So what they realized, nevertheless, that we all have a sense of dignity, which means we all have a common sense of what is oppression, injustice, and violence, and what is right and what is wrong in that respect for our own life. So basically, they realize we all agree about human rights as long as you don't ask us why. So human rights became more a kind of framework to be able to live a life of dignity. Next slide. Next slide, please. We also observed that they are kind of in decline. If you look at this human rights index, so you can see the big hole after the war or during the war. And then we have the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and it goes up, and then it continues to go up. And maybe in the 90s, internet and everything helped to go even further up. And now we observe a kind of decline. It's probably due to the war in Ukraine and this, but still, if you look in Europe by country, you can see some country, European EU country also in decline. So you can look in this world in data. In this website, you will find a lot of information and you can select countries you're interested in. So it's also important to realize we should not take for granted human rights and all they mean for our lives, and we need to nurture them. And for this, we need to understand how their ecosystem, how they work. Next slide. So this is why we had this project, and we also think education in that respect is very important. So we are all three organizations participating to this project, also founders of the Right-Centric Education Network. This network unites people from all over the world with maybe different vision of on how to realize right-centered education. but we all have the same consensus on wanting to have an education practicing human rights and not in the daily life in school settings or elsewhere. So that's our common goal, to enable learning environment where education is more and more aligned to human rights and their principles. So the project is based in two activities. The first activity is carried out by Ali and UDEC. So it's really centered on right-centric education. Ali, which is my organization, we have been preparing a guide about the ecosystem of human rights to explain where they come from, what they mean, the common values that they carry, and how they can become effective. Then UDEC will relate to our explanation and show practices, rights-based practice, to show it can be realized, and we can be much closer to realizing human rights in education by practicing them. And Collective Up will complete the project by addressing digital rights, because it's very important in today's world to also be very much informed and aware on our digital rights. So this is a kind of separate part, but it is also integrated in relation with human rights. Next, please. Just a quick word about this reorganization. Ali is defending a right to education in full compliance with fundamental rights since 2013. So we analyzed a lot education, the right to education, and we defend, in fact, we started as connecting as an organization to connect homeschoolers, but we were very quickly approached by people with their son or daughter suffering in school, who try to find an alternative to school, and also being facilitating learning out of school. We discovered a full range of options and alternatives to conventional schooling. So that's why we try now to promote and to make better known, to defend freedom of choice, so that anyone can find the right path for himself. And we support autonomist approach of education, and also always for the well-being of the learners. Next. And this is Charlie, please, you can.
So, hello everyone, it's a pleasure to have you here. Some of you, most of you, I guess, are familiarized with the democratic education. I represent UDEC, the European Democratic Education Community. It's a non-profit organization based in Germany, but is connected to more than 100 schools, has more than 200 members, and it's active in, or has members from around 30 countries. It has been existing for 17 years, and our goal is to promote democratic education. There are different activities within UDEC, and I invite you to visit the webpage if you all would like to learn more about it. But very briefly, I would like to just make an overview of what democratic education is. So the first characteristic has to do with participatory governance, involving young people in decision making, having one voice and one vote to participate in decisions that concern them, that affect their learning and their community life. The second characteristic has to do with self-directed learning, and this has to do with the right to develop agency and control over their own learning. Not only academic learning, but any kind of learning. In addition to that, you find that in democratic schools, there are age-mixed environments. And I will relate this to not the next slide, but the following one. And there is a lot of free play and own time that the kids can enjoy to explore, to connect with others. The connection with this project for UDEC is from a practice-based experience. It has to do with restorative justice practices. As Kathy mentioned, this is about learning about democracy and human rights, but by experiencing them, not by theoretical preaching of some concepts, but rather by experiencing, holding those rights, engaging in dialogue with other members of community, and also participating in, for instance, budgeting, deciding on how to solve conflicts, as I mentioned, also having participation in their own learning, how curricula or timetables are rearranged. And in this regards, when I mention age mixing, this has to do with the right of association, learning from others, connecting with others, the right um, um, to be able to express yourself, to have your own ideology and also your own identity, right? So we often see children forced to wear uniforms in an attempt to unify everybody, not to have any kind of individual expression of identity. So within these schools, and many of those schools, of course, you find that kids can be themselves. And this is the practice that we are bringing, the practical practice of democratic schools to this project, connecting democratic education and human rights education. Liliana, would you like to continue?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Liliana Carrillo. I'm the founder of Collective App, and this is a social impact organization. We work at the core, actually, of the inclusive transition, so digital, green, and social economical transitions. And for us, democracy is actually a pillar to this transformation, and that is why we work directly in democracy and human rights in general. My background is artificial intelligence, computer science engineering, so I tend to do a lot of work in the digital field, and that is why for this project I'm focusing mostly on on digital rights. And that is all. Please continue, Kathy. Thank you.
Okay, so that's a kind of milestone of the project. Our guides will be ready as a first version for proofreading and feedbacks by the end of April. And then we will have two public events where we will participate and maybe present these guides. It's at UDEC in Turkey in July, which is a huge, big conference. And we will have a small rights-centric education day in Luxembourg, probably in August to close the project. Next. So I will explain a little bit more about the guide we are preparing. I say we because we are three persons. Myself, because I developed a fascination, a big interest for human rights in terms of their philosophy over the years. There's a legal expert also contributing to this guide. And the last person is a researcher, writer, and also has been a teacher. And she's rewriting the guide now to make it less dry, to make it really engaging and interesting. And it's a big challenge for her because she doesn't like legal text at all. So I hope I'm sure she will find the right way to make it acceptable for people who don't like write and then make it interesting. And our goal is not to present theory, but really to relate to a lot of real case. And we start by explaining the foundations of human rights, so their story, and it's a very interesting story actually. And after we map the human rights ecosystem, so it's about also how politics and civic engagement and the social norm, all this, and justice, all these are interrelated and how they react all together. So it's interesting, and it's very important to understand to be able to activate rights in practice. And we are also presenting the guide not really to trigger critical thinking, and we don't deliver the answers. We we make people search and explore, and we encourage to develop project-based experience to test the theory we present. So next, please. So the first thing we need, I will give you now some insights to introduce actually the presentation of Charlie right after. The question is, no, it's the one before. Sorry. Human dignity is the cornerstone of all rights. You can take any international treaty in its preamble or in its first article, you will find the concept of dignity. And I was in the social forum in Geneva in last October, and you had people from all over the world, and they all mentioned these terms, dignity. And what does it mean, actually? This is something we will address in the guide to really understand what it means, because it is the heart of everything. Next slide. And I will come back to this concept of dignity later on. But now, because we all have this sense of dignity, because we all know what's right or wrong, or we have a sense of moral, because biologically we are human, but probably we cannot define it. So we cannot say what is right and wrong, but we have a feeling for it. So the human rights, they are a kind of framework to help us have a life of dignity. It will not say us how, and it will not enforce any fixed moral norms, but it is a principle-based approach. So it gives some guidelines on what we should pay attention to live together in dignity. So basically, I have to remove the pic here. So dignity is the cornerstone of everything, and then you can have principle. Here I selected some principle which are proposed as this, but you can think of many other way to show this. I see human rights like a matrix. You have democracy, where participation is very important, because if you want to decide on your own life and how to live with others, you need to have a quest for truth and to be able to participate to society. Then we have prohibition of discrimination, because basically in dignity we are all the same value as human beings. There should be no discrimination. But equity is also when we are not equal. It's more a question of equity, because we need some justice. It should be fair how we treat each other. Pluralism expresses the diversity of opinion, which is essential to have a democratic life and to have a quest for truth and be able to live peacefully together. And then we should avoid the ban on inhuman and degrading treatments. And UNICEF made a very good report defining violence, and they said violence is everything that is not essential for in education and that could be avoided. So if you consider human rights like a matrix, we should optimize all these principles to get to reach out the best result. And in terms of education, it can be expressed in a different way. Actually, in legal text is that education should enable the full development of the human personality, the respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms, an active participation in the democratic society, the promotion of understanding and tolerance, and the contribution to peace and global cooperation. So it all says the same. The goal is always to live peacefully and safely and in harmony and to have a life of dignity. And of course, all these principles, when you are confronted to a real case, you can interpret in many different ways, and maybe one principle should be more important than another. It depends on the situation. So that's why there's a justice to settle the conflict of interest and to guide further and set some norm to decide and live together. Next. And you can, so now I come back to dignity, because if I relate to education, then the question is, when you think of participation, when you think of well-being and on fulfilling developing fully your human personality, you can have different approach. Like you could have a very autonomist approach where you think free will is really important and self-determination, and you trust the people to be able to flourish if they are nurtured well. Or you could think, yes, you need an external order that tells you what you should do or not, or you need an organization that tells you should learn this or that. So there are a lot of tensions and different visions of a young person and how we should practice education. But if you look at case law and interpretation in Germany. I should mention Germany after World War II. They really said, we don't want to see these atrocities we have experienced anymore. So right in 1949, they put the concept of dignity in their constitution. And they have a long history of interpretation in their court cases. So they are quite advanced in terms of giving a kind of a modern concept of dignity today. And from what I read, we can summarize like this. Protecting dignity means never treating people as objects. So young people are subjects of rights, and even if you think in terms of economy, they should not be molded for economic purposes. You should guarantee the freedom to live authentically. So UDEC had a slogan a few years ago, free to be me. And it's really about that. If you accept someone in its authenticity for what he is, not trying to transform him, then that person can develop a sense of its self-value and is better able to recognize the value of others. That's how they consider dignity. And then it's about cultivating reciprocal respect and recognition of others to live together in democracy, so without authoritarian system. And all this concept of human right and dignity, they are perceived like individual rights, but they are extremely collective, and they are mainly collective. So there was a campaign which was called Free to Speak, Safe to Learn by the Council of Europe. And they are going that direction too, like cultivating mutual recognition, dignity, and democratic participation, and experience respect and social esteem. So it is changing, and I think it's normal. It takes time to have change, and now still there are a lot of tensions between protection and autonomy. So because heteronomy could be seen as a way to protect vulnerability, but now we will hear Charlie to explain how they practice autonomist approaches in democratic education, and how they see education in their school network.
Thank you. I think that what you just mentioned it pretty properly, the right to be yourself, to develop your identity, your interests. But I do believe that we need to find this balance in between freedom and responsibilities, right? It's not only about individual freedom, but it also has to do with responsibilities towards others. I am another you. that was supposed to be how the Mayas used to say hello. I am not if you are not, right? The idea of service as liberator. I feel that recently I saw a video how to raise a Nazi, and it was very shocking. It was based on psychological research, and it's very up to the moments that we are living. Basically, what they were saying is we reinforce authoritarian attitudes by raising people authoritarian. I got this stuck. English native speakers, please help me. Authoritatively? No. Richard,
Is
for
it
God's sake, wake up.
Is it authoritarian or authoritative?
No, it would be an adverb, or in an authoritarian way, let's call it. Authoritatively. My apologies. But you got the point. We need to experience democracy in order to promote democratic attitudes. The period of preaching about rights and the period of preaching about how the state works and the period of preaching what a citizen means needs to be over. We need to engage in a practical experimentation of those aspects of life. Otherwise, we will continue seeing what we are seeing, a crisis of democracy, a political apathetic attitudes in regards to making decisions together with others, total individualism, consumerism, disregard for nature and for others. The means and the ends have just been detached from each other. And that's exactly the point that we want to raise, is that they cannot be detached. And we need a serious understanding of how those practices of conventional schooling are affecting the health of our societies and are affecting the mental health of our people, both adults and young people. So in these schools, and we need to definitely do more research, bless you, we need to do more research on these topics. In these schools called democratic, people have rights and they are entitled to their rights. They don't have to win them over. They don't have to beg for the possibility to be considered as individuals. And I feel that this is what we are bringing to this discussion. How do we actually engage in living human rights with young people through dignity, as Kathy was mentioned? Shall I continue? Next slide. Wait, I got distracted here. Next slide. Yes, this is well, this is IDEC. Yes, this was in 2005. The International Democratic Education Conference got together, and this is the statement. Basically, it is a right-based statement in regards to education. And I feel that it's not the first, but it's definitely gaining momentum. And this is one of those situations in which we are getting people who are committed to these goals, getting together and together striving for a more democratic right to learning, not necessarily schooling as we know it. Okay, so this is guide number 2, which has to do with right-centric education in practice in democratic schools. I think I already mentioned some of them. We are speaking about freedom of conscience and pluralism. We are speaking about sitting and being able to learn how to listen to each other, how to get to the middle ground as a young person, how to understand the other viewpoint, how to be able to put yourself in the other shoes, which is something that some of us adults find very, very difficult. How to listen to others. We are not listening to each other in society nowadays. It has to do with the right to develop your personality and talent. This demands autonomy to make decisions, and there is the promotion of autonomy. This demands the right to make your own decisions, also to decide on how to learn better and how to learn what and with whom, what time. I feel that it's truly important that when we are talking about right-centric education, we are speaking about breaking a viewpoint of adult centrism in which adults know better and children and young people are incompetent. We cannot learn how to drive a car by checking a manual or a guide on how to drive a car. We need to sit behind the wheel. We need to make some mistakes, learn from those mistakes with somebody who is caring, who is supportive, and then we learn how to drive a car. It's a comparison that is relevant to the extent that we need to learn how to exercise our rights in order to benefit ourselves, but also benefit society. And respect, which is tremendously important. At some point, I have been working 22 years in education in different kinds of schools. And more than once, I have asked adults if they would feel respected if another adult would speak to them the way they speak to young people. Of course, it sounds like I'm making friends everywhere, or not. But it's a valid question. It's a dignity, what you were saying. It's about giving respect to also get respect. It's about respecting different ways of expressing yourself. Once in a school where I was working, students were not allowed to wear hats. According to the administration, it was because if somebody broke something, the cameras wouldn't see who this person was, which is totally against the right to develop your identity. So one day I went with my hat on, and I was teaching the whole day with my hat on. And students asked, why can't you and why can we not? And I asked them the same. Why? Why do you think it is so? There was not a mini revolution, but there was a discussion about rights and about whether the fears of adults could get in the middle of my expression, my identity. It is not as terrible as it was 50 years ago, definitely, perhaps, but it's still very oppressive. And we need to bring up those rights that young people also, even though they are not voters within states, they're already citizens. And we need to keep in mind this. So this might be a way to understand how rights engage in learning environments. Kathy, I think you go on with this?
Oh, sorry. Actually, I put this slide just to show, that the political people at higher level in the Council of Europe, so it's for 46 countries, they are going the same direction, and they are looking for the how. That's what they need to know. That's also what the UN rapporteur is asking. We know what is wrong, and we don't know how to make it right. So this is why I mentioned this slide. It's not only just a couple of people. It's at higher level as well. There's a need for such change, and we need to share the how and to reflect on this. That's all we wanted to show with these slides. And now it's Liliana. It's your part.
Yes.
It's still important.
So, well, we have heard about democracy. We have heard about self-directed education and human rights in general in education. But we are in a world that is more and more digitalized. So basically, we have to also pay attention to our digital rights, and that's the guide that we are preparing actually for students. So this will be a comic. If you pass to the next slide, what we pretend to do is to actually use something that kids love, and it's to have a cartoon, to see some comics. So we will be creating a guide that supports them to understand what are their digital rights in their human digital rights in this period of time. To do that, we have been, you can pass to the next slide. We have been looking to what exists already. So basically, we don't want to, of course, recreate what exists in this moment. And there have been some interesting progress. There is some interesting progress, for example, from the Council of Europe that has an interesting comic, let's say, related to the digital rights or to the rights of young people and children in the digital environment. It doesn't touch based on all the rights that we could have. For example, there is a right that is even the right to be analog, which is a digital right. So we should have enough space. Like this is something that currently in schools, at least in Belgium, most of the schools are very digitized, meaning that children are not even asked what are the tools that they want to use, or if they ever want to use actually digital tools. So, for example, that is one of the digital rights that we actually have, our right for freedom, our right for information, meaning that we actually can still choose to not to be digital and to ask our school system to give us information in an analog way. Of course, the digitalization is just going too fast, and it's just almost impossible to be analog. But in any case, that is one of the rights that we have. We also have the right for privacy, and that is one of the one group in France actually prepared one interesting web cartoon that is related to privacy. You can see it in, if you scan the QR code, you will see a post and all the links of this presentation. There you see what exists at the moment, also based on digital ethics. So not only digital rights, but also how to behave ethically in the digital environment. There are also collections in the Better Internet for Kids. So there is the EU strategy that is conglomerating several safe internet centers in Europe. And some of them have been creating comics, but they are mostly actually about sex extortion on the internet, or harassment, and not necessarily about digital rights, but in any case, very good information. So that is the collection of information that we have found at the moment. And if you go to the next slide, you will see that this is the type of material that we find at the moment. The challenge that I'm finding in developing this resource is that there is a scattered information by age. There are some cartoons that are, for example, the resource number 2. It's a cartoon that is a web cartoon that is developed for age 3 to 7 or 7 to 11. But then other materials like number 5 and number 3 are developed for older ages. So more around 16 years old. So not everyone actually has access to the same information. So that is one of the things that at some point we will be doing some focus groups and contacting the schools. Already Paola started with the process, but to know what is the main target, let's say, in age for us in this resource. And for now, if you go to the next slide, we have been already creating some basic ideas in which we would like to show that there is the right for privacy, the right for freedom of expression, and the right for access to information, which is very much related actually to the right to education, then the right to be protected. And in those lines, for example, also something very important is that all the tools that we are using have terms and conditions. And most of the people, including myself, don't actually read all the terms and conditions. But there we are actually most of the time giving our data away to other parties. So our rights to our privacy and our data is actually something that we should care about, and that's something that we should also learn at a very young age, that there are these terms and conditions. And that is how we have been progressing for the moment. And hopefully we can hear your opinion and hear what is in your environment, what ages you are working with, and what would be actually interesting to have. And the next slide, I think it's for Kathy, if I don't remember, but you will see. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. So again, I will remind of the milestones. So by end of April, the 3 guides will be available for free online, in English first, but also they can be easily translated in different language. And then we have this big conference in UDEC in Turkey, and RC, a small event in Luxembourg in August. So it was just to remind that you should watch our website, and we will announce when the guides are online. And then when they are online, people can give feedback so we can improve them until the end of the project, end of August. Because that's why we call the project co-creating, because it's not only our opinion, it's about collective work to make it better together and to better understand the needs and make sure people have understood what we have tried to share. Next slide. Questions? Any questions? Yeah, we collect, I see question in the chat. We can collect feedback from anyone. It's really open to anyone. It is a project for schools because there was a need of equipping schools and teachers and youth with a better understanding of those rights, but it will be freely accessible to anyone. So anyone can revert with some feedback. And especially young people. We are already in contact with young people, and it's interesting to hear their vision as well. I like to. It's interesting to learn what's happening in schools because we are not in schools and we don't know. And when young people tell us, it's very, very interesting. No more questions?
Kathy, there are schools in Ottawa area. I think we all know of some worldwide where cell phones have been banned because of the misuse of them in schools.
Yeah.
And with what Liliana, I think I'm pronouncing your name correctly, with what you said, it kind of raises the question with respect to rights and that you have to have demonstrated a certain skill before you're allowed to drive, going back to what Charlie said. And maybe the use of the internet, digital technology within school, that students have to somehow or other demonstrate that they're aware of how to use it properly before they're given free access to it in school. This brings up then also the question about human rights, but it's the rights are not just about your own personal rights, they're about the rights of others as well, and properly balancing that. The whole business of vaccinations, herd immunity, that kind of thing is part of that question. What are our rights and what are our collective rights that both have to be respected? So maybe there's something there to bring into the conversation.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yes, sorry, Kathy.
Actually, we were in contact with some with a youth association, and we told them we have such projects, and we asked them what would be something you would like to claim, or what and they mentioned immediately this cell phone ban because they have not been consulted. They didn't really have a problem with the ban itself, but they were really shocked. Nobody asks them what they think of it. And I wanted to make maybe a case study with this young person to look into the rights and to claim. I think our guide is really to give some tools and equip people to know what their rights are so that they can claim them and how they can claim them. And you don't need to go to court for that, but there are some political steps to take, and to it's very important to make sure you are not said everything and how you have to live your life, and you have a say in whatever concerns you. And this is exactly what is in the right. So we are working on this, and we will definitely include some potential ways to reflect on this in the guide.
I fully respect
Mm.
that a big part of the solution to this is to engage the young people themselves in deciding how the technology can be used constructively. And just having those conversations with the young people goes a long way towards getting the right kind of behaviors exercised. So good point. Glad you're working on that.
Mm. Mm. So, any more questions or maybe comments? Maybe you want to share something because you are doing some similar job or you have similar experience.
Kathy, otherwise we could show our question, our provocative question, as
I
a
think I
way
remove
to
it.
maybe next. You remove it.
Yeah.
There's the next slide. You remove. Okay. Yep. That's
I
it.
think I removed it. I'm sorry, but the question was about self-determination and conscience, and if artificial. Well, I thought my thought was that what distinguishes artificial intelligence from human being was that we have a conscience and we can self-determine ourselves. And this is really a question. Well, I think that artificial intelligence is still programmed and determined somewhere by someone else. But maybe it will change in the future. And we started to have a conversation with Liliana on this because she's the expert. And I think biologically, when you split bio and logical, what makes us human is our conscience and self-determination, still in face of artificial intelligence. And I hope it's gonna be true for many years. I'm not sure. I have doubts now. I talked with you, Liliana.
But there is Derry has a question. So yes, go Derry.
Yes, it's a comment, really. Thank you. The question of whether smartphones should be permitted for, or rather banned for, under 16-year-olds is going through our parliament at present. It's passing through the upper house, House of Lords, right now. And there's virtually no consultation with young people taking place. It's interesting to me that Peter Gray wrote in his blog a few weeks ago about some research that seemed to show that in democratic schools, it was based on the behaviour of kids before the school day really started, and then once registration time happened, that kids spent a lot of time scrolling on their phones until the other kids arrived, and that once their friends arrived, the use of the phones sharply diminished. And Peter's hypothesis, I suppose, is that if kids have the freedom to relate to each other and organise the communication that they need during their school day, they'll be much more resistant to addiction to smartphones and endless scrolling. And I think he's actually doing some research on this now, that kids who've had responsibility for their own learning in democratic schools have much more protection and control than kids who are told what to do all day long For them, it's an incredible relief from the pressure and stress of school and being told what to do. It's an enormous escape to get onto their phone and start scrolling. Whereas for kids who are free to organise their own learning and organise their own day with their friends, it would be boring to spend the whole day scrolling when you had the much more interesting opportunity of relating to other real human beings. Thank you.
Yeah, I would
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Katie, go ahead.
I just want to add, because I heard there are plans at EU level to ban cell phones as well, but they already did in Luxembourg. And I completely agree. And this is exactly the question of dignity and autonomy. And if we are not raised in autonomy, how can we become autonomous? And it's really, it could be a legal question as well from that respect. Who wanted to speak? Yeah.
Hi, sorry, I joined late, but I wanted to comment on what Derry said, because that's very typical, and I've seen it in self-directed centers, that there's two kinds of kids who join there. Some have their parents limit their screen time at home, and some don't, right? And you can see the ones who have their screen time limited at home when they're at the self-directed center, they spend all their time on the screen, because that's like, yes, that's my time. I can finally do what I want, right? Whereas my kids, who have no restrictions whatsoever, never had, neither on the content nor on the time, they go to a self-directed center, they want to interact with other humans, right? They don't want to be on their device all alone. They want to play with others. So I think we have to be really careful as adults as to how we handle this, because our influence is tremendous. And when we start controlling instead of conversing with young people about that topic, then that's how it can go downhill real fast. So I just want to emphasize how important it is to have the conversations rather than trying to control top down, because top down only creates pain and issues. Whereas when we can converse and make agreements that really work for everyone, then that's you see beautiful impact on that. And then the legal aspect of it, I think is kind of laughable, because what's going to happen if it's prohibited? There's just going to be people like making their own choices and buying phones on the black market instead. It's not going to stop youth from using phones. You know what I mean? So those were my comments.
Thank you. What's the time? Oh, so
Richard?
I see something in the chat.
Yes, thanks for recognizing my hand. Maybe a little off topic. Cut me off if you think I'm straying too much, but my focus has been, how do we get these ideas into the minds of the general public? And I have decades of experience in public education. I've worked really hard at times to get school board trustees, parents, parent councils to consider these ideas. When I talk about it from the point of view of human rights, using that language, their eyes tend to glass over and they tune out. Whereas if we talk about it from the perspective of well-being, they're much more likely to be paying attention. Jana said in her talk to the Peace School group that she worded it this way: the languages of well-being and human rights are just different ways of talking about the same thing. It seems that there needs to be some discussion of that statement for people to appreciate that you cannot have well-being unless your rights are respected, that the respect of rights is absolutely mandatory for a person to have a good sense of well-being. And so it's kind of implied in discussions about well-being. And I think that with the idea of language being so important, we might want to really consider the kinds of conversations we want to generate with the general public. Human rights is something that within our group we tune right into it, but it isn't something that the general public tunes into very well, and they have various conceptions of what it is. So approaching it from the point of view of well-being could be helpful. Jana, and here also, it's been stressed that lived experience is really important. I had a chance to run a program in a high school. Derry's had experience running programs in public schools as well that give young people lived experience with having far greater control over their learning. And I've come around to thinking that adults are too busy, too preoccupied, only involved while their kids are in school as much as they can be. They're not our best audience to be talking to. It really is the young people, because they're living this stuff every day. They can generate a lot of action within their schools in a short time if you get a few leaders within a school bringing these things before the students. And obviously it has to be done responsibly, where they're not offending the administrators to the point that they're getting reprimanded. How to keep it healthy, that's all part of it. I have an event on the 27th where I'll be talking about that program that I ran and how to give young people a measure of lived experience with having more control over their learning. It's a step along the way towards totally non-coercive learning environments. And one thing I've learned is this change from coercive to non-coercive learning isn't something that can be decreed or happen overnight. It's a process. We have to kind of usher people, massage them along the continuum to non-coercive learning. And this program that I will be talking about on the 27th gives concrete ways that we can do that. And it leads towards Charlie's program, which is Suvame. Suvame would be another step further along that continuum. So the program that I'll be talking about would help to prepare people to take a bigger step to an actual democratic school within the community school.
Okay.
So
Thank you, Charlie.
you let me finish that. You let me finish that without saying I'm too far off topic. Thanks.
Many hands raised. Beth was
Thank-
first.
Yes.
Hi. I just wanted to comment that on the thing of people not recognizing human rights or not being interested in it. In the US, I would think the way most adults think about that is, well, that's about some third world country where the kids aren't being fed, and like we don't think that anyone's rights are being violated, but of course they are. Well, even more so today with our current administration. But as far as children, like if they read the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, they would be really surprised at some of those rights. They would say, I don't know if this is a good idea. So I think sometimes when we're talking about it, we do need to talk about well-being. But if we want to connect human rights with it, we have to talk about your right to make choices for your own life is one of your human rights, and get adults to buy into, yeah, I need that, I want that. And then like, well, what about the kids? And so we kind of have to get them to see human rights in a different perspective. As sure, we want all kids around the world to be fed and all of that, but how it applies here at home is a little bit different, but still important.
I will just comment and then Derek can speak. It is, in fact, human rights are highly subversive. So if you really look and try to understand what they say, it is about self-determination. And we have to claim those rights, otherwise things are not changing. So it takes a lot of time. And I think all the work Derry and Richard and all people here have been doing has an impact. We just don't see it. But in 10 years, I've seen changes. And we have to continue and to improve or to make it understood, and then step by step it will change. But first, the power is in ourselves, and we have to to realize this. And as we said in schools, if they had some leaders, they could do a lot of things. They just don't dare. But it's also expressed in the guide and explained as a mechanism of how you go to one way, and the duality of human being. We try to go deep in such philosophical consideration and anthropology, and to give some tools to think about all this, to recover your own power. Derry, it's your turn. Yes, I don't hear you.
Damn, got it. Okay, I think you can now. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that the issue that's brought cell phone banning, smartphone banning before the English Parliament has been one particular parent whose daughter committed suicide after the algorithms started zeroing in on self-harming and self-destructive behaviours. And she eventually committed suicide when she was 14. And that's brought the issue to public attention. But the interesting thing is the father of the girl who committed suicide, who's been organising the campaign, he does not want cell phones to be banned. He said the problem is not the kids and cell phones, but the problem is the totally irresponsible nature of the IT industry, of Silicon Valley, of Musk. And one of the pressures on the English Parliament at present is coming from Trump and his group, who are accusing the English of being opposed to free speech. So somehow protecting Musk's right to corrupt young people is more important than actually protecting the young people. But the father, his campaign now is saying, we've got to get control of the big tech companies. And what will happen if you ban phones? Phones will end up having pathways to kids' pockets in the same way that drug dealers have. And he's terrified that the selling of cell phones, which then will be illegal, will get into the hands of the same people who are making a lot of money out of kids by selling them drugs. And that leads to another argument, of course, that kids who engage in self-destructive behaviour, who have very low self-esteem and a low sense of well-being, these are the kids who've been subjected to control by our school systems for their whole lives. They've never been helped to take responsibility for themselves. You become responsible by taking responsibility. Everyone on this call knows that. And that seems to be the key message we've got to get across. We've got to create space. Sorry to plug my talk, but the 20% idea, we've got to create space in schools that really does develop the interests, passions, concerns, questions, talents of the young people themselves. So thank you for your talk, Katie and Charlie and Liliana, because these issues are so directly connected. Anyway, I thought I'd just mention that about the English Parliament. The pressures come partly from Trump's crew, partly from the parent of a suicidal kid, but he does not want the phones to be banned. He sees that as a very dangerous and inappropriate route. He's much more in favour of developing the resilience and strengths and control of young people themselves. Thanks.
Thumbs up. Paola, you want to speak?
Yes, Mai. 1 second, very short because I see the time is running. Yes, I just wanted to add that this is what we are aiming in the guide number 2, or in the second stage, in the second activity of the project. We are asking right now democratic schools to provide us with a survey, to provide us with some practical examples, because if we are only talking about the problem, I think we are not reaching what we are supposed to. Well, we're supposed to awake the society, but then we have to give them some tools, you know? So we are gathering some kind of best practices because we really want to reach teachers and also students, children and youth, showing what they can practically do. Or for schools that don't, conventional schools, we can, yes, show some examples on how to maybe not, maybe it's not possible to integrate all the ideas or all the practices we are going to show at once, but we can start talking about it with the in the classroom. We can talking about it with the staff members meetings, and maybe, yes, maybe we step by step reach some change.
Surely. I'm sure we will.
Yeah.
By step. Yes, it's better to act than to do nothing, and sharing together is always very helpful. I've seen some comments from Sifan, and he says, where is it? Have US courts referred to UN Children Rights Convention in their judgment? I don't know. But I can say the fact that they did not ratify the CRC has an impact on the vision on childhood, because I've seen some statistics showing that since 86 to 2016, almost the same majority of people think it's good to spank a child for his own good. So, and when you compare with countries where they have the CRC and where they have more law and campaign against violence to children, it's different. The behavior change. And I will have another session tomorrow in French and with our legal experts. And recently, 1 week ago, for the first time, and it's really historical, they have broken a court case, and they have changed a very old court case saying that a parent had the right to spank his child just for his discipline and for his own good. And now they have made, they had a very severe case. And last week they have completely changed this vision with a new case law, and now it's really forbidden. So no court case can say it is admitted that a parent to discipline his child can spank it. So this will not be legally possible. And this is the impact of the human rights on the national law, because it was a big process to change these laws in France. So it shows that, you know, it's a lot of things which are influencing and making change and changing behavior. And it's not only the law, it's also social activism and everything. So that's what we try to explain in the guide, and to show with real example and stories, and to make it more concrete and engaging for people, that it's worth to have civic engagement. So,
Kathy, can I make another quick comment?
Yeah.
Just with respect to the process of students being able to claim their rights more within the school, and the example that I put in chat here, where one principal wanted to help students claim those rights. She mishandled it in a way that the school went into chaos. It became a citywide conversation of how this school was failing. It was in the newspaper, and the whole board became aware of it. It was a misimplementation that sets the whole thing back for ages. Everybody in the board starts thinking that, okay, you can't give kids more control over their learning, or things will just disintegrate. And so we really have to stress that it has to be done in a way that's always respectful, And if you have schools where the authorities are just going to see it as a challenge, no matter how you present it, it's better just not to present it there. Choose your spots more or less. So it's something that we really need to be careful about, and that can be added to our conversations.
Yeah, it's a very good point. And I think it's also a question of strategy and of tempting and dialogue. For me, it's dialogue because there are no this question of trusting a child or not. It's a very complex one, and we can see this is where everything blocks because people are not convinced they can trust. But it's normal because we are growing up in coercive systems, so we don't learn to be autonomous. So you all know that. So it must be gradual and not too direct and brutal. It should be transitional from my point of view. And maybe that's the experience you relate to. So how many are still there? Oh no, we are still a lot of people. Maybe we can stop for today, and I will have 2 more sessions tomorrow and on Sunday in French, but they will be on YouTube, so you can look at the translation. And this one will be about sharing real practice from people engaged in defending environment and also defending children's rights, and also in education, reflecting on education. So unless you want to still discuss, I don't know. I
was just trying to get something into chat quickly. There's an example in Beyond Measure, the book and video that was created not long ago, of a student in a high school in the US who went to his principal and presented the idea of a program like I ran to his principal, who was the kind of person that Derry describes as a responsible subversive who says, this is interesting, let's see what we can do about it. And so that's an example of a student who we can learn from him, from that example, how students can take their concerns to a principal and actually get some results. So we have those examples out there of students taking control like that, if we can bring them to the fore more as well.
I think we have a lot of way we can act and do things, and we should trust ourselves to do so and try. And even if we fail, we have to try. And so I thank you, everybody, for
I would love to invite you to write us to, I don't know, if you feel you have some thoughts or if you want to contribute somehow. We are going to send and share as Kathy said before, we are going to share with the wider audience. Well, we are going to publish the final drafts of the guides in April. But yes, you can contact us. I'm going to write in the chat the 3 email addresses. Yeah. So you can keep connected, and we are also disseminating the project in our social media channels. So maybe if you see something there, we will appreciate also if you collaborate sharing it. Thank you.
Yes, we are indeed looking for feedbacks and other views and other angles to enrich the guide. So it will be
use cases, examples, things that can be made more practical to people. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, after that, to collect experience.
Well, I will be saying goodbye.
Yes, and thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, nice to meet you all. Have a good night. Right.